Today's discussion is going to be centering around sports management and its content. And we have with us a very experienced person in that field, Wele Felix Awogo. He's a sports content manager and marketer. Good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be part of your beautiful screen this morning.
Okay, as somebody who is into sports marketing, can you relay for us some of the biggest challenges that you would face in organizing a sporting event?
Well, let me narrow it down to Nigeria. And the big question is why is the Nigerian Professional League not meeting of all its obligations? Let me take you back to about 10 years ago. There was a deal with the league, which was about between $9 and $10 million. That deal ran for about 8.5 years before it was truncated. One of the things you have to understand in football, and which I always told administrators, is that what happens in the classroom translates to what will happen on the pitch. So there's a lot of as much theory behind the scene that packages the outlook of a content at the end of the day than to just get into the field and you start playing football. And so that has been a major struggle of Nigerian football today. And if we know that Nigerian football is actually the king sports in Nigeria, it may not be in countries like India where cricket is massive, or South Africa where it competes with rugby. But in football, if we don't get our football right, we'll struggle with other sport franchises. So I'm pretty sure when this deal was struck, it was expected that the league would grow. There'll be a lot of money put into the administration, where players will be well paid, where the field of play will be beautiful, because if it's not beautiful on TV, at the end of the day, the TV owners will not want to renew the contract. And so those are some of the things we need to fix in how we package our content. Another issue, it has always been a struggle because the government owns most of this football team. The team managers or the chairman of the club will always get funding from government. So they didn't understand the business aspect of running a great franchise like a proper football team. And so once you don't get that, you keep struggling. And since Supersport left the fray from Nigerian football, it has been struggle. Of course, StarTime has come in with a 1.5 billion naira deal. It's also struggling. I mean, the league as at 5 years ago was netting over 6-7 billion a year, and now you are struggling with 1.5 billion, even with the dwindling naira. It's a big struggle. So we need to get the franchise. We need to get government regulation to protect investors in the football industry or the sporting industry at large, so that there's a return. And I also ask why there are no tax incentive for people who are investing in some of these areas. So it's a potpourri of activity that we need to do. Administrators, the fans, the facility developer, and of course television. Television makes most of the difference when you talk about sports marketing and broadcast.
Quite an interesting first thoughts there, and it's quite broad the way you have put it. For you, as somebody who is a sports administrator, what role do you think that sports management play in identifying and nurturing local talents?
Well, administration, of course. Okay, let's categorize it. What does the sports ministry do? What do the ministries in states do? Basically, the sports ministry is supposed to deal with amateur sports. And if they are dealing with amateur sports, that how do they manage their relationship with the schools? That means they have to have a relationship with the secondary school or commissioner for sports or minister for education, sorry. So if you have all those things, because the real talents are in the school system. If you don't get them from the school system, you probably get them from mechanic workshop. And those who get from mechanic workshop struggle in the long run. So they don't give us any advantage. If you go back, people like Mary Onyali, a top star from Anambra State, were all left from Aguju Grammar School in Lagos, where they were fished out, nurtured, and then they got scholarships into the American university. So why is that no longer happening in Nigeria? That's when we are talking about athletics. So if we don't fix it, if we don't get it right, at the amateur level, especially the school sport level, we cannot. We cannot get it anywhere because it was a great opportunity for a lot of Nigerians whose parents do not have the resources to send them to the United States and other areas to get scholarship. But of course, at a point, we messed it up. If you look at Chidi Imo, Harry Amike, Joe, all of them all came out from the schools. But in the last couple of years, that has totally dwindled. And that is because politics setting into how we select and how we pick out our talents from the school system. People started sending their brothers, their sisters, instead of actually the right talents coming out from these high schools. So when that happened, the American, when you send some kids who you tell them makes 10 seconds or 11 seconds at high school level, and they get into America and they're running 16 seconds, then there was a credibility issue with the Nigerian sports ecosystem. So what did they do? They went into Senegal, they went into the Caribbeans, and that is where we lost out. So we need a minister and the AFM president who will sit back and say, guys, where did we get it wrong? It is no longer about our selfish interests, but national consciousness and national interest. How do we get this resolved? Go back to the university system, have a proper scouting system that makes the best available. I'm not saying yes, our school system doesn't, the university doesn't encourage sports. And that is why you have to go back and say, okay, why is cultism very big in Nigeria university? It's because we do not encourage sports. The school curricula has not designed a proper structure where it integrates sports and education. American system has a perfect system. You must have a degree and all that and all that. And they nurture you. They create the time for you because that is what grows an institution. You know, a lot of people make a mistake when you talk about Ivy League school. What is an Ivy League school? You talk about the big universities in America. Ivy League school is actually a league. It started as a league, a sports competition among some universities. And that is what we call Ivy League. We think it's just the best universities in the world. We need to have a situation where we combine sports as a major aspect of education. And if we don't get it right, we will keep struggling at the international events. And we need to go back to the Athletic Federation of Nigeria, which is where the university system wants to approach. How do we get the right technical department that is fair, that is not about my friends, my cousins, my children traveling, but giving opportunities for the poor? Nigerians will say it's the poor that do sports. I don't agree. What has happened over time is the children of the middle class have been deliberately stopped from doing sports because there's a regulation gap in the school system which does not allow most schools do proper sport at secondary school level. If you remember people like Patrick Ekeji, late chairman and all that, they all came in from secondary school. Remember CKC Onitsha went to the university games, and from that CKC team, 5 players played for the Nigerian national team. So why are we not getting it right? So these are the big questions. How do we integrate school sports or the school system with the sports ministry or sports commissioners we have in Anambra State and other states to work together, work in tandem? It's not about just putting things there. There must be a structure. 90% of the talent we have discovered in Nigeria has been accidental. None has been structured discovery. And so if we don't have a structured discovery, we don't have a story to tell about some of these protein athletes that we hope to have in the future. Thank you.
Interesting. Okay, I don't know how much more investment you think we may need in order to show up our own sports and activity, especially as it concerns football. We see a lot of Nigerians, you know, run across and around being fans to international football clubs, and most of them are fanatics to some of these international football clubs. And it's not the same thing for NPFL. You know, you hardly see a young Nigerian say that they are, you know, fans to Ayimba, for instance. I mean, very rarely you see that, but not as, you know, their counterparts outside the country. How much more investment do you think that can be done in order for that attraction that the EPLs, the Bundesligas of this world have, so much so we can have that for our local league?
Well, let's go back. Many years ago, the EPL was struggling. The Bundesliga, the Brazilian football was on top of global hierarchy of top footballing nations and leagues. But somebody changed the narrative, and that was Margaret Thatcher, who was then the Prime Minister of England, because he understands what it takes and what you need to do if you have to grow this big franchise. At that time, the EPL was having a lot of ugly incidents, fightings, and all that. Well, he set up a team led by Mr. Dean then, and said, guys, what do we do about our football? If we really say we are the people that started football, we give the world football, how do we grow it? And so they sat down. But again, he put up an investment of £200 million to the team. They sat down, they didn't eat the money. They sat down and said, guys, how do we get our league going? And they structured the league. They created the proper franchise, the English Premier League, then the Barclays Premier League, and they started growing it. You know what happened? They started attracting stars around the world. They made it a global business, a global franchise. Paid a decent salary with that money. But you must ask yourself, £200 million investment some 20-something years ago. Today, the league pays in excess of £4 billion in taxes every year to the British government. So very wise investment. So when you're talking about investment, yes, you have to invest in infrastructure. You have to say, okay, how do we clean up the league? How do we get the fans back? I want to come and watch Rangers or Enyimba or Solution United. I'm not coming to watch the names. I'm coming to watch stars. Over the years, any player in Nigeria that has scored 5 league goals looks as if he's become a star. And he goes to Kazakhstan, he goes to Benin Republic, he goes to all these funny countries to go and play. So next season I come back, I have developed affiliation with a footballer like a Chris Maduka who plays for Enyimba, for instance. Next year he has gone to the... So what happens? I stop going. Because every season I meet new players who are not talented, who I do not have any affiliation with playing the game. So if we don't get this thing right, that we are coming, if we don't build stars in the local league, if we don't have the capacity to retain footballers in the various clubs, then you will struggle with the fan base. I'm happy that a couple of players, Idenya, for instance, has joined Enyimba, and I hope we will attract some of these old players, although some of them are not playing, but they have the name to attract the fans. Kano Pillars is doing well with a couple of the international stars they have on their team. The crowds are coming. But with the dwindling naira, the value of the currency, it has made it attractive for somebody to take $1,000 and play in the Republic of Benin, which doesn't really make much difference. $1,000 a few years ago was 400,000 naira. The average salary in the Nigerian league is about 600,000 naira. But now that $1,000 is about 1.6, 1.7 million. The young man leaves. So that has been it. And now we cannot retain stars. I want to come to a team and I want to see stars in the team. If you go to the South African League, the South African League is popular and bigger than the EPL in South Africa. You see teams like Kaizer Chiefs, and a lot of them delivering. I went to watch one of the derbies last year. Yeah, that was in October in South Africa. The total advert spin and sponsorship package on that match was in excess of $5 million. It was between the Orlando Pirates and Chiefs. So what does that tell you? The ecosystem can be done and can deliver the needed money if you do it right. Have you bothered to ask yourself, why are the middle class not watching Nigerian football? Basic infrastructure. You want to go with your family to watch a match, you don't have a proper toilet, it's not a clean environment. So how do you deal? How do you say, okay, instead of going to drink beer, how do I come into a football field? There's a space for me, I'm paying premium, I'm taking my girlfriend, my wife, my children to go and watch, and I can go and take a cold bottle of beer during halftime. So these are some of the fundamental changes we need to fix in the Nigerian system, in the Nigerian football system. If we get it right, then people like you will start going to the field because it's a relaxation area. I call it sportainment. If our music industry can grow the way they have grown, sports can also grow. It's an entertainment.
Right. On the broadcast side of this conversation, I wanted to ask if you think technology has really impacted the way and manner that people engage with sports these days, and how much more with technology go? I'm talking about live streaming apps. How much of technology have impacted the way and manner that we engage with football, or in fact any other sports?
To be honest, the way we interact with football, especially the younger generation, is changing. I must tell you, pay TV is in crisis. The streaming services are the future if we get it right. But even when you are talking about streaming services, you still have to do a proper production. I don't want to struggle trying to catch up. But the younger generation is all about, hey, I'm watching this match, they're chatting with their friends. So there's a lot of interaction. So the traditional television will struggle in the next couple of years. But the big question is, how do we even get the content beautiful and brilliant and cool enough to keep people watching? In Nigeria, there's a lot of streaming services, but the quality of delivery has a big question mark, because it's not just about putting one camera on the pitch, like the MPFL is doing currently. You struggle because you cannot capture. Creativity is about football. A cameraman is an artist. So you need to train those cameramen who knows how to capture the right images and get the right directors behind the scene. I'll take you back to EPL. When they started, they even brought a cricket director to start because cricket was beautiful. It was multi-cameras, the balls were smaller, to create a proper ambience, and that works for them. So you can actually take ideas from here and do it. But the streaming services in Nigeria, we really need to watch it. We need to look at it because, of course, we're also struggling with broadband and all that. It is the future. But the infrastructure government has to do their own part of the investment, and individual has to also put their own investment. But if I may ask, why are the streaming services leaving the smaller sport like basketball, which all they need is an AI camera? They're streaming straight into their system and start growing it, because one is a controlled environment, it's a smaller environment, and that could be that could be it. And again, you keep asking yourself, the companies, the TV stations are so poor. Out, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a major struggle.
So you have mentioned that TV is in crisis. Are there things that TV can do, or basically just go with the technology? I mean, and maybe at some points pay less attention to the way and manner TV is run.
First of all, have we ever sat down and said, okay, what are we? We keep saying content is king. What have we done with television? How have we said, okay, this is the area I'm going to drive? Everybody does the same thing in Nigerian television, same. If I watch this one, I go to this one. It's all the same. Nobody's really invested in proper content, and it's content that people follow. Just like I said, in football, you want to follow the stars. In television, you want to follow the right content, and the content takes you everywhere. Have we built enough profile of certain people that can actually push you to go there? If you're a good presenter, you have grown. And how have you handled your own handle? Have you grown yourself enough, social media-wise, that your presence can attract viewership into your television station? Because it's the eyeball that delivers the money. If you don't get the right eyeballs, you can't deliver the money. And like I say, if you pay monkey, you get monkey. So we need to be bold about this, and we need to say, hey guys, we need to do the big deals. South African television is doing very well. Why is Nigerian television, in spite of the 200 million population, not doing well? So these are some of the things we need to sit there. I mean, we need to have a think tank, some eggheads sit down. How do we fix this? It's not longer about licensing and then delivering here and there. How do we get things going? And how do we fix those things? People need to sit down. There needs to be a deliberate effort to say, okay, we need to reposition. And how do we reposition? How do we get the people? Do we even do research as to what the people want to see? And I doubt if we do that. We believe we have the right content, and you put it on. And I think that's the right way to go. You need to ask people, you need to send them questionnaires. What do you want to see on TV? And when you get that right, yes, you're beginning to deliver the right content, and sponsorship and advertising will follow. And that is why a lot of TV stations come up after a few years, they die off, because nobody sits down. Of course, it's going to be struggling the first 2 years because we won't make money. But you must have enough deep pocket as an investor to say, okay, I want to stay the full hog. If you look at the pay TV industry in Nigeria, we had High TV, you have Kwese, we had a lot of them that come up. After 2 years, they die. It's because we lack patience, and then we're a very religious country, and you keep asking yourself, why do they pray for a long life if you just want to come up and die? So sit down, structure yourself in the right way. Have the patience. That's okay. This is an investment. Gestation period is about 3-4 years, and I'll make money. Don't be in a hurry to kill your business because you want to grab quickly.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but let me just
Okay.
ask this just before we go. How do you attract sponsorship for sports programs? What are your priorities? What do you prioritize in content for sports to attract sponsorship?
Well, I'll give you an example. The EPL, because of the way it has been built over the year, attracts the biggest sponsorship. For us, the EPL, for instance, nets approximately for 1 year sponsorship in excess of 12, 13 billion naira. And that's it's because it's a prime process, it's a prime, and everybody's watching. So, how do you get people to start watching your content? Is you build it, you create credibility around it, and you put up the stars. So, if you don't get the right content, it's not about just putting things together on TV or putting talking heads. It's about the right content, and exclusivity is also the key in right sponsorship and marketing, and if that's how you deliver the right sponsorship. If you don't get exclusivity on some of these rights, you struggle. If everybody, except of course, you have the right platform where everybody is watching you, and then you can prove to me that, hey, this show I've just delivered 1 million subscribers, 1 million people watched it, and so I can sell based on this. I mean, you can always calculate this. The world is changing, and it's all about data. How do you use your data to position yourself? Key.
All right, thank you so much, Owele Felix Awogo. We truly, really appreciate your insights on the show this morning. We truly, really appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and all the best in the new year.
Happy New Year to you. Owele is a sports content manager and a marketer. Thank you again. All right, we're connecting to Abuja for the continuation of the morning show. It has been one interesting time with you all through the morning. Let's do this again tomorrow, same time, same station. I'm Charles Pius. Good morning.